Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome back to Inspired Awakening. This is Inspired Awakening episode 21, and I'm back in the cozy corner vibe. Not exactly the same as last month. I don't got incense or tea or a cozy blanket, but I got my robe and my pink vibes to talk about this month. I wanted to talk about my journey with the Fae, because this is the most common thing that I am asked as the Elfian communicator. And since doing like that 1 hour episode insight into my channeled books, maybe I'll do another episode of another hour diving into them a little bit more and giving some more insight, or again, keep asking questions in the comments about things and letting me know what you're interested in, because that will help a lot in me deciding how the direction of this Inspired Awakening podcast is gonna go, since I technically have it as a podcast. So I might as well, treat it like one and sit and talk about things, not only channeling. So I want to talk about my journey with the Fae, and I have with me my first ever tarot card deck, which is the Fairy Tarot by Radley Valentine. And this is actually from way before, when Doreen Virtue still was a part of Hay House and a part of publishing cards, before she stepped away from our community of card readers and channelers and peeps. So I do have some of her cards too, that if you've followed me on the Medium platform, I've reviewed cards. I don't think I've reviewed this deck thus far. I can't remember. Sometimes I just sit down and I review them, and I'm in a zone of writing like 5 articles a day, and I go for it. But I probably won't review the card decks of hers that I have, because I believe they've all been discontinued. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. The reason I have this card deck is because it was my first ever tarot deck, and my journey of the Fae is my journey with the Fae is my journey with tarot. So first, I will kind of explain my journey with these cards, and then talk about how I connected with the Fae realm through these cards, and then how they started coming through to me, not in these cards, and then do like a little card reading for the collective, because I thought that'd be fun. So first, I was gifted these at the beginning of my journey of healing. So my awakening anniversary is the summer solstice, because that's when I went to seek out healing. And it's because I was healing from what is known as post-betrayal syndrome. I didn't realize it at the time, but I experienced a very traumatic to my senses betrayal. And what's very interesting about this time in my life when I'm recording this is coming out early April, but the time in my life when I am recording this, I am kind of recovering from another traumatic betrayal, except this time I'm not going through it alone, so the healing of it isn't as bad. You could say that person had no virtues. It's just because during virtue, trying to make a joke, but also I don't have a tripod, so I'm actually using my cards and a chair, like half of my collection, and I'm looking at, I have some of Doreen Virtue's cards, I have some of Kyle Gray's cards, and Abiola Abrams' cards, holding up my camera, because it's the journey with the Fae, but it's also the journey with tarot, But during that time, when I was 16, I experienced a really significant betrayal. And it was one I should have seen coming. And that's kind of the thing, is you talk yourself out of it, but it wasn't just the betrayal, it was that the experience was traumatic, and the situation that the person put me in, maybe they didn't know. No, they didn't want to acknowledge that it wasn't a safe situation for me. So that betrayal of me also in the moment, and it wasn't just one person, like my more recent experiences, it was one person doing this to a lot of people. So it's a little bit easier to kind of bounce back from, but in this situation, it was multiple people who betrayed me and watched me suffer and literally sat with straight faces and did nothing. In that moment, when I got up to leave, because I was put in a situation where I was around my estranged father, who was a narcissistic abuser and emotionally abused me and did a lot of not so nice things, not so good things, that caused a lot of trauma. And the betrayal was being put in a situation where I was forced to be around him and where I was literally sat in a corner and I couldn't get up and leave. And I was in an enclosed balcony where he was in front of the door and there was no way that I could leave. So I was literally trapped in a corner, and two people who I trusted and I thought would be on my side, and someone who didn't really know the backstory but was still there. And you could still see that I was like panicked because I hadn't seen him since, I hadn't really seen him in that way since I was 11 and I made the decision to leave. So, and anytime I talk about that, my right leg, like the leg that's associated with the past and the paternal side, hurts. Because it was I was traumatized by the experience to a whole new degree. And that betrayal that I experienced from the person that put me in that situation, shook me to my core. So I spent a few weeks in a state of shock where I was sick. I started to get physically sick. I was coughing, I was sneezing all the time, I would test for things. I didn't have an actual illness, and my throat was burning. When I was a kid, I had a history of almost chronic strep throat. I had strep throat all the time because I was constantly biting my tongue. Even after I removed my tonsils, I was still having strep throat. It didn't stop until I left visitation with my estranged father. But also because I wasn't sleeping when I was having visitation with him, so it's probably why I was getting sick all the time. But in this situation, my throat was on fire. I was sleeping fine for a while, then I started having nightmares. I started being very fidgety, and honestly, the actual effects, the long-term effects of that, healing from that, is to the point that even up until a year ago, I would still have moments where I didn't even trust my own back being exposed, not against a wall, or I literally experienced such insane paranoia after that because I experienced a huge breach of trust that it shook my foundation. I've since healed from it. There are still moments where there will be a trigger that will remind me of what that felt like and I have to redirect my energy, but I still don't think that person even knows how shocking that was, because after a month of me doing the healing, I fully cut off everyone involved in that situation. I realized it wasn't worth it because their plan was to put me in that situation. Basically, everything was trying to get me to that situation where I was stuck in a corner and I had to face someone who they didn't want to hear that he did something to hurt me. They didn't acknowledge when I am telling them what he did, and they're no, he could never do that. And because they didn't want to grasp that concept, they thought it was in my best interest to put me in a situation with him. So off that soapbox, but that's kind of the state that I was in. And I, for the first time, I remember the day, it was summer solstice, it was raining, and I went out with my friends. Just two friends, my two close friends, who I'm still very close with. And for the first time since I was in elementary school, probably for the first time in 10 years, we were dancing and having fun in the rain. I hadn't done that since I was a literal child. And I felt this feeling of joy and knowing that I could trust these people. And when I went home, my mother's a crystal. I'm a crystal Reiki master. My mom is an angel spirit healer and a Reiki master in Tibetan and Ushui and all the different types of Reiki. She has been. And she was at that time, like, she was finishing the angel spirit healing. She was already certified in other ones, but she was finishing the angel spirit healing. So she just got that she had gotten that certification recently at that time. I go home, and my mom and brother are reading tarot cards. And I sat down, and I was like dancing in the rain, and I was connecting with the water, and I was connecting with the elements. And it was the first time, like, I think in my life up until that point, maybe not since I was like a little kid, I had connected with nature in that way. And what's interesting is the Fae, they are keepers of sacred earthly knowledge and beings of hope. So that is like their true essence. And obviously I didn't know that at the time, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that how I was connecting with the elements, and that I was feeling joy. And so I was in a state where I could just say, like, I was like still feeling like a little like sick, like not contagious sick, that my throat was constantly on fire. Like I didn't fully talk about what happened. I just, when I came home from the event that had happened from the betrayal, I was just like, can you, guess what so-and-so did? And we're like, oh, you guys went out, we went to the pool together, it was, summertime. I was like, yeah, but something else. And I just said, they tricked me into a situation where I was with him, just refer to him as him or estranged father, and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And that's what I left it at. And this day, the summer solstice, the rain, the nature, the everything, the tarot cards, everything, I sat down and I was like, I think I need help. Like, I'm not okay. My throat's on fire all the time. I'm having nightmares constantly. I'm a mess. I sat down, I'm like, I'm a mess. Oh, my mom asked me, do you want to try Reiki? I said, yeah. I had nothing left to lose, because in that moment, I felt like I lost everything. Like, yeah, I have these friends. What about the people I grew up with and what they did? It was a shock to my system that woke me up. And I'm like letting tears out now, because it's a sad thing, but because it's healing, because I can see that it happened to get me to this moment. So I did the healing every single day, without fail, for like 9 months daily. And I had an oracle card deck, which I would show it, but it's like the bottom of the stack of cards that's holding up the camera. But it has fairies on it. It's like magical times, oracle card deck, empowerment cards that I had from before. And it's just like little daily pulls. And I started with doing readings with that card deck. And after about a month of doing the healing, I sat down with these cards after being told by my guides of the cosmic heart, who at that point had connected to me, that some spirit guides had connected to me, and they were coming to me in a safe way, because I was still a child. Like, I was 16. This was 5 years ago. And the way they were presenting themselves to me was in a way that didn't, like, I was, like, comfortable. And I remember the Reiki sessions would always start with me just, like, in the water with 2 sea turtles. And a big gray owl would come and pick me up and take me where I needed to go, and I would watch a dolphin swim by. And I didn't know, at the time, I didn't know that that was my spirit animal, power animal, and totem animal connection that was coming through. Like, those were animal connections, and the group souls were coming as spirit guides. So it was very interesting. But I sat with the Magical Times cards, which depicts pictures of fae, but also of dragons and animals and phoenixes, and these beings that I now know, beings of knowledge, beings of truth, beings of hope. Like, now it all like clicks and makes sense. But at the time I didn't know, and I kept getting the card that I needed to let go of connections. And when I would do the healings, I was constantly being protected from people who had ill wishes against me. Like, that's part of it. Part of how, and if you've experienced healings with, you know, the healer of spirit, who is my mom at the holistic fairs that we used to do in the American Midwest, you'd know. She always puts like a protection around you when you're done with a session, because she's doing angel spirit healing with a golden Christed light. So like Archangel Michael is just always present, and his shield of protection is always there. And so I kept trying to reach out to the person who betrayed me, and that I'm related to, like, it was a family member, and who I don't consider, I mean, estranged family now. Wouldn't claim a relation. If they stepped out and said, we're related, I'd be like, no, because not anymore, not after that, that's not how family behaves. But I've let it go. It's just like, there's a thing with like, forgive but don't forget. Like, I forgive that person for what they did, but I wouldn't put myself in a situation where they would have the opportunity to do something like that again. I don't wish them any ill harm. It's just better if we don't communicate. Like, it's just that is a situation where no contact is better, and it's just healthier for both parties. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I was, trying to reach out to them, and every possible excuse in the book for why we couldn't meet in person to talk. And I was like, okay, I need to, maybe, and the thing is my guides helped me prepare for all situations, all circumstances, helped me go through the process of just being prepared. And I'm just sitting with these cards, and I'm staring at one of them, and it has a picture of the Fae, and I just the first time, the clairaudience in me opens since I was born in the physical, in this lifetime. And I just hear like, you have to let go. I had a letter written out, like typed out and printed, that I was going to read to this person. Instead, I had the document, so I copied and pasted it, and I sent it to the person. And it was like clean sweep, everyone. I blocked everyone, no contact, everyone. And it's the day I went no contact, and it was pretty much exactly a month from when I started the healing. And it was just hearing like, you can't wait anymore. You can't. You have to let it go. Because I was getting disappointed every single day. And this person betrayed me, and I was upset with them, and I wanted to talk to them and work things out, and every day I was getting disappointed. So not only was I recovering from that shock of that traumatic experience from that betrayal, but also I was constantly getting disappointed every day. And I was giving the control to somebody else to dictate how I feel about the situation and how I heal from it. So I took it into my own hands, and I spoke my piece. I said goodbye. And that was the first time opening, and it was with that card deck. Afterwards, because, I was sitting and I was trying to get the messages and understandings from empowerment cards, which you can, but it's not the same thing. And I was gifted these cards, the fairy tarot, like after that experience. And it was because I was reading with the fairy magical times that I was just like, yeah, I want them. Like, I was like, yeah, I want these. Like, and the thing is like, I saw them, because the card collection started off as, you know, my mother's as a Reiki master. She would use cards to help, like when having clients for healing. Now her own intuition, and you know, it's a tool that helps you get to where you need to go. And I still use it, but not as much as I did in the beginning, because it's a great tool to get you going, get your intuition flowing and your gifts awakened. So I saw it and I was like, I want that. Like I was like, I like this. It's like, hey, here, it's a gift. Like, good job for standing up for yourself. And I find it interesting because it was when I stood up for myself. I started to have hope for my future, that I can actually maybe heal from what happened to me. Because when I was 11 and I left, I spent those 5 years fighting with these family members. You know, as a kid, I'm fighting with grown adults and I'm trying to tell them, like, this is what happened to me. Can you just believe me, please? Like, can you listen to me? Like, you all said that from, like, even from when I was age 10, that you're like, you're changing, something's changing about you. It's not that the change happened overnight. It's not that me leaving was a surprise. Like, it had to have been known. Can you hear me? Can you listen to me? So I think I experienced the betrayal from that start point, but I had that catalyst event. And I spent those 5 years, I didn't have hope for my future. Like, I didn't know, was I gonna make it to high school graduation? Like, I didn't know. I was on autopilot. I was on auto control. I was, you know, doing anything possible but acknowledging what I was dealing with. So for the first time, when I made that decision, no contact, I experienced hope. And then I get gifted the fairy tarot, which fairies are beings of hope. So that was the beginning. And it was when I started feeling like I had hope for my future. And that maybe I don't have to live in the reality that I thought I had to live in. The reality of basically every day fighting with people who supposedly love me for them to hear me, like screaming. And I think that's also, my throat stopped burning, you know, after that period of time. But that's probably why my throat was burning. I was actually finally feeling the effects. Like, I've been screaming and nobody's listening to me. And it came to me on, like, that it came to me, like, on my own, sitting, and I hear the message, and I knew it wasn't me, because I knew I was hearing it from something higher, something outside of myself, something of higher guidance, because I didn't want to let go. So hearing, like, you need to let go, I was like, this isn't me. I was like, that isn't what I wanted to do. But hearing that that's what I needed to do, that's how I knew it was guidance from outside of myself. I spent like months with these cards. That it was after a few months that I spent like reading these cards every day and learning card spreads and really connecting to them and experiencing renewal. It's funny because the elves are pictured in this card, and yeah, while it's more of a, like, the image of them in this card isn't the best communication of what they look like, but I mean, you get the gist. Yeah. Actually, I'm not very happy with the illustration of what they supposedly look like, but also the Fae don't look like how they're depicted in these cards all the time, not all the images of them. It's very, you know, very humanized. The images are very, very humanized, except like this one doesn't feel humanized, the one that's on the back cover. But it's besides the point. I started to develop connection and develop like connection with myself, connection with my soul, connection with source, with creator. I started connecting. Because I also experienced that religion trauma that we all go through, where you have that like super religious aunt. I'm laughing because like I've experienced this multiple times with different, interesting. Interesting how this shows up in my life. Where that like super religious aunt who like makes you feel shitty about yourself no matter what you do, and is actually like the biggest hypocrite. And like where I would experience something that was like shocking to me or scary for me, and I would picture her, like I would feel like she was like yelling at me. I would look in the mirror and I would see her face like screaming at me. She traumatized me because of her religion. But no, I don't think I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think that, I don't know what she was connecting to. But to like traumatize your niece, like your little kid, like she held me and she changed my diapers, like to create, like we all have that. I think anyone in this path, we've had that one person. For me, it was an aunt who just like completely made you feel bad, where I felt like I was performing. Like anytime I did anything that was following her idea of religion, I felt like I was performing. Like I was like, oh, I learned this, I can't wait to show it to her, so she knows that I'm not like this horrible person who's damned to hell. Excuse my language. That's not how connection with your soul and connection with source should be. It shouldn't be an act. Well, I was recovering from that. So I was very scared to like directly ask and directly connect to my guardian angels, or directly connect to source. Because I was scared of that, because she really led me to believe when I was a kid that like I wasn't worthy of connecting to source, connecting to creator, connecting to Heavenly Father. Like I wasn't worthy of connecting unless I did it in the way that she believed. So there was that, like the healing of that I experienced that with the Fae. Like I experienced hope, and I experienced rediscovery of my faith through reading these cards. It was very interesting. And I started connecting on my own. Then I started praying. I started journaling. And I started paying attention to things. And then I was visited by the Elfian realm. Then my Elfian spirit guide came to me in a dream. And I remember that day like crazy. Like vividly. And it was crazy. So it's such a vivid memory. That's my Elfian traveler guide. And the dream was, I was going to a school with a bunch of people from my past, and they were all getting dropped off places. Like I thought I was going to school with them, but I wasn't. Then I entered a building with nobody I knew, and I went into a classroom that was like all glass windows. And I sat down, and this man walked in. And I'm not gonna like describe like the image of what he looked like, because that's like what my guide looks like, and you know, I don't wish to share that. But no, it was a man, but he had like big ears, you know, like Elfian traveler guide. I mean, I'll put a picture here, but if you've been following me for a while and watched the channelings and watched this podcast, like I think like one of the earliest episodes I ever did was talking about the Elfian traveler guides. So the image of the elder here, and that's the reference point. And all of a sudden, like in the dream, I'm having memories and remembering things that I suppressed like in the dream. And I was so like, that was the most peaceful sleep that I had. I woke up, and I woke up late. Later than normal. And I went outside, and then my mom was working outside, and I go, I have to tell you about my dream. Because before, like, we would do Reiki at night. It was sometimes during the day, but at that point it ended up being at night. It was that night. It was like before I went to sleep. And I would always talk about it with her afterwards because I would gain clarity in my sleep. Then I started keeping a dream journal. And I was like, can you draw someone? I was like, can you draw something? Like, I saw something and I need to know. And I need to know who this person is. Because it was like an overwhelming feeling in a positive way. And I remember just like, when I woke up that morning, everything was brighter. Everything was brighter. Everything was more vivid. Everything was more clear. Everything was more peaceful. Everything was more inspired. Like, I felt more inspired. And I described it. I had my mom draw it. I colored it and I'm like, okay, this is what I saw. Okay. It's like, okay. Now I need to know who this is. And I remember the experience in Reiki because it was one that was like very clear to remember, where I was connecting with my guides, and I had been doing it every single day up until this point, and by this point it was like 3 or 4 months. So I was really getting progress because the sessions were like an hour, sometimes 2 hours long, and or like an hour and a half long. So they were long. I had that benefit, and I had the benefit, so I used it. It's not a common situation. But then, eventually I ended up paying my mom back, because she did the healings for me, and then when I started being able to do the readings, I was doing readings for her. So the energy exchange happened. But also I didn't know this, but her main goal for like seeking energy healing was to help me heal from my trauma and heal from phobias. Even before I experienced that betrayal, like why she sought it and why she started getting all the certifications and became Reiki masters and all the different things was mainly like to help herself, but also to help me. It was like, because nothing was working, nothing was healing the trauma, like therapy, nothing. Like, I had to go and deal with it myself. I had to go in a Reiki trance and heal it myself, to heal the phobia, to heal the trauma, to heal, like, everything. I had to do it within myself because the block I had was a throat chakra block. I was blocked from speaking. So I couldn't express everything. So therapy was pointless because I was scared to even say everything. So I was reaching nowhere. So it had to be within me, and within me acknowledging it within myself, to then heal within me what was blocking me from communicating, and then I was able to talk about it. So that was, I don't know where I was going with that, but redirecting. Then I went into the experience of in that healing. My guides were the guides I had like connected to and met, and my guardian angel. I had my guardian angels, but I only had connected with like one at the time. It was like they were all opening and parting ways, and the visual was like in this beautiful, serene, blue, like open field. And my Elfian traveler guide stepped forth and said, "I'm an elf." I said, I was like, and I think I actually like audibly laughed. Like, I'm in a healing session, I'm like in a trance, but I like 99% of the time I actually laughed. Because I was like, what? It's like, this is like a person. Like, it's like, no. And that was my first experience receiving a download. Because a download of information. Because it just like touched my hands and in the trance, like touched the hand of my soul. And I knew. Like, I knew. Like, I received that download, like, oh, well, this makes sense. And then I spent like the first 4 months doing nothing with that information. Like, nothing. Just, okay, this is my guide, and connecting with this guide. And then I'm doing the readings, and my Elfian travel guide's like, yep, yeah, they're there. The Fae, they're there. Like, you're connecting to them. And you're connecting to us. They're not a part of the same source. Like, they're beings of hope versus beings of inspiration, but hope can make you open to feeling inspiration, and inspiration can make you open to feeling hope, and so they're connected. Because when you feel one, you feel the other. But Elf is eternal loving friend, and their actual name as a soul is different. Same with Fae. I don't remember what the Fae like acronym is, like what it stands for, but it's just a name that we understand, and their actual name is completely different. And their image is influenced, I talked about it in last month's episode, but their like image is also influenced by what we remembered from the Atlantean Age's people, and it's like also not what they like truly look like. And they're not like tangible in the way that we think. So there is like differences to what we perceive it as, and they're not real in the way that we were taught that they are. They're real in a different way, and it's a way that we should start to be open to accepting. But anyway, it was very interesting, and it was like I was doing readings with the cards, and I was like, doing readings with these cards, and I remember like I like shot up at one point, and I, you know, like go in a meditative state, like ask my Elfian traveler guide, can you tell me about like what, like who, what, like what is this, where are you from, like what is this, where do you come from, why are you my spirit guide, like and you know, now I've literally questioned, and the thing is like friends, family, former significant others, like they've told me like I have just like this questioning nature where I'll ask questions, like I want to know things, like I want to, and it was given clarity to me because part of my nature as a soul is I have that like essence of knowledge where I am seeking knowledge, and I'm just very interested about things, like I want to know, like tell me things, and I was very curious, and that curiosity was snuffed out of me when I was in like my dark periods of life where I was going through a lot of trauma and a lot of pain, and I was like experiencing the things that I was healing from, and that curiosity, like it came back to me one day. It came back to me. I think it was after my 17th birthday it came back to me, and I was just like, okay, like I want to know. They didn't know at the time, but it's like, oh, this was like in my soul contract, me seeking out the knowledge because of the way that the Fae and the Elfians respect our free will. I had the soul contract to be their communicator and to understand these things and to learn about these things and to channel, but I had to ask for it. So me asking to know. So at first I had the very like dumbed down kid version of everything, and then it opened up and I started learning more. So then flash forward to a few years later, and I am, you know, at a holistic fair, and I'm doing my first like free speaking event, and this was in Hudson, Wisconsin, and I met someone there who works with the Fae, and she gave me a lot of insight. And we were connecting, we were talking, and we were trading readings, and I was learning things about the Fae that I didn't know. Like she came as that teacher, and I was giving her insight into the Elfian realm that she didn't know. And then she had a client come to her, and an elf showed up, and it was the first time it happened, and that client came to me, and I was like, this is the elf that came through. And I had a client at that same time like coming and asking me about the fairies, and I sent them to her. And she introduced me to a lot of different things, where I started connecting, because now I'm like, I know the names, I know this, and my guides and the Elfian realm are telling me, yep, she's legit, like she knows what she's talking about, so trust. And at the same time, I'm still always reading these cards. I'm taking these cards with me, I'm taking them and reading them for myself, like I'm doing these for myself, I'm doing them for people, like I was do conferences that had nothing to do with spirituality at all, just like leadership conferences, and I'd be reading for every single person. Like I was reading these cards all the time. Like I off book, I know these cards inside and out. Like this is my deck. Like I don't go anywhere without this deck. Like I went like somewhere for like 2 days, like for a 2-day like weekend thing, and I took these with me. Like I take them everywhere. Like there was a time where I would carry them in my purse, and I would have them in my car, and I like literally did not go anywhere without this deck. And this is after I started channeling, because it was during the time where I was scared to channel for people in my life. Now I'm not. I mean, I know who is open to receiving channelings and who the cards is easier for, but I've read for family, that's not the estranged side, that's the very welcome side. And for friends and even ex-boyfriends and like whatever, like everyone. Like I will pull out the card decks and like someone's like dealing with something, struggling with something, I'm like, okay, let me pull out this deck. I'm talking to them, and then I open it and I'm like, are you open to receiving messages from your guides if it comes to me? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I open, I'm like, okay, well here's this, and I see this card, I'm like, and it helps me gain that sort of understanding. And when I read with these cards, I notice that people experience hope, and when I channel, people experience inspiration, which, again, Fae, beings of hope. And one specific group of the Fae is the Guardians of Sacred Spaces that I learned about from, I call her the fairy lady in my reference. She's like the fairy communicator, and that's how the Elfian realm refers to her. And I really connected with the Guardians of Sacred Spaces, like I'd say more recently, like within the past year. And they work with the Guardians of the Veil. I learned so much about them. I started connecting to them. I started seeing them. And it got to the point where like they were coming through so strongly, but I only channel the Elfian realm. So I'd be channeling the Guardians of the Veil of the Elfian realm. And I would feel the presence of a Guardian of the Sacred Space. And the Guardian of the Veil would be like, it always starts with, and my eternal loving friend, or my friend, Guardian of the Sacred Space has a message to let you know, or here's this. And I noticed they're a partnership. And when I set protections, I have the Guardians of the Veil on my right hand side, and then the Guardians of Sacred Spaces on my left hand, or I don't know. But left hand, Divine Feminine side, Guardians of Sacred Spaces, right hand, Divine Masculine side, Guardians of the Veil, because the Elfian realm is more connected to the Divine Masculine, and the Fae is more connected to the Divine Feminine. That's how they are like counterparts of each other. But that's kind of where I am now. Like, it's the Guardians of Sacred Spaces that I've really worked with so much. I was gonna do a reading in the middle of that, but now I think I'm just gonna do it now because I kind of got to that point. But like now, I mean, I don't connect with them like as regularly. It's gotten to the point where I don't like every day like I used to connect with the Elfian realm in the same way, because I'm channeling them at least like every other day, and I'm connecting with my guide anytime I can. But it got to the point where, and this happens, where your guides kind of take a step back as a sign that you've developed your own intuition. You're connecting to your highest self, and that's what the guides are there for. So they're not as present. Like I had guides spirit guides that I was connecting to so strongly in the beginning that I haven't connected to since, because that guide served the purpose of getting me where I needed to be. And if I ever feel like I've hit rock bottom with something again and I need to be reminded, I have that like revisit with that spirit guide that gets me back on track. But I've only ever had that happen once, and it was a year ago. They'll take a step back when they're not as dominantly showing themselves. And we all have a Fae guide that would go by the term fairy godmother, that helps us understand earthly knowledge, helps us understand our role in this physical incarnation, helps us understand what it's like to be helps us understand the physical form. Like your Elfian Traveler guide helps you with your ascension as a soul, and your Fae guide helps you as in your ascension in the physical form, and what you're meant to do physically, and how to balance being a soul in a physical body, and how to overcome the ego and have hope for the future and not get disillusioned, and kind of helps you get out of the frozen awoken state. While I don't connect with like my fairy godmother, I guess, so like strongly, like I don't work with her directly, I know that she was there she's there when I use these cards. And I know that, and in my connection, like these cards are how I connect to her and how I've gained clarity on so many things, and I feel that resonating within me. It's like Yeah, no, that's true. And because I'm more connected to the Elfian realm, so that's my main guide. That's who I work with. Like, and anyone who's done a reading for me or read my aura, they're like, you have this like very strong protective energy around you, but it doesn't look like. I mean, you have your guardian angels, but there's something else. I'm like, is it an elf? Like, yeah, I guess that's what it looks like. Like, it looks like almost alien. It looks like yeah, it's just my Elfian traveler guide. He's like, because I channel them, because I'm their communicator. My Elfian traveler guide is sometimes even more stronger, even more strong, like even stronger than my guardian angels sometimes. Like, and I'll have times where I only connect with my guardian angels for a while. Like, if I ever feel like I've hit like a low, I'll start with my guardian angels and then work my way up. That's kind of the healthy way to do things. But like, it's so fascinating to me the way that the story progressed, where I channel the Elfian realm, but on a more daily basis, I'm reading cards of the Fae. Like, I'm connecting to the Fae, and they help guide my intuition. They helped me discover my highest self. They helped me uncover my intuition. They helped me reopen my clairaudiency, which is something that is one of my natural gifts that I had when I was like a kid. I had it, and it helped me become a channeler. So I wouldn't be a channeler without them. So you can see that the camera on my battery is going down, so I assume I've been talking for a while. So let's wrap it up with like a little card pull. Yeah, I've postponed this video for a long time. So this is another one that was just like just waiting for the right time, because I mentioned in last month's episode that I wanted to publish my own cards. So I was waiting to do this video until I had my cards created, but they're created, they're just not published. It's just not the right time. Trust that there's a reason for everything that happens. Yeah. I was afraid they wouldn't get published, and they didn't. Like, I was afraid of it, because I was in a state where my energy was being drained, and it just wasn't the right time, and I rushed it, and I know that. But this is the right time for this video. So let's see. Let's do a little like 3-card pull. Let's do like a past, present, future. Right? Because when I'm doing this reading is like this video is definitely like a significant time before this video will actually come out. So it'll be very interesting to watch this back when it comes out and see. But since these are beings that connect with the moon, Fae connect with the moon, they know what moon cycle we're reading for. So what do we need to know? Past, present, future. What does the collective need to know? Obviously I do my protections and things before I do a card reading. Not in the same way I would do a channeling, but like, I'm safe and protected. Nothing, no one can access me nor my energy without my permission. I do it silently, unless I'm reading for someone else. I'm surrounded by divine light and love, only messages for our highest good. That sort of thing. But just because I've done it so much that I do it like silently. But when I'm reading for someone, yeah, I don't know why I didn't do it now. But I do like a guardian angel protection with doing channelings. This is a different space. And then card of clarity. Okay, so 10 of Autumn, physical body. This is always the card. Like, I know this card. This is a family traditions card. This is whether or not you want to honor family traditions. It's also like financial security. The physical body and the earth element is related to like prosperity and things like that. But what we gotta know about the past. I'm seeing the theme of the reading ahead of time, but it's time for us to know what's worth carrying forward and what isn't, because what we choose to take with us becomes the traditions that our children know. And if we don't like something, we don't have to repeat it. We're not obligated to because it's family. And I've seen people who repeat things because they feel they're obligated to, because this is how my family did things. And I see the people who broke the cycles. Now, I'm personally the daughter of a woman who broke cycles. So that helped open up opportunities for me to feel like I can break cycles. But, you know, still feeling the effects of like being emotional. What this tells me is that for the past, like in the past, we've uncovered what traditions are worth breaking and which ones aren't, and we're taking wise steps. So we're taking positive steps forward. Present 9 of summer, this is like the good card. This is emotional body. So wish is coming true. So this helped us uncover things that are related to our heart's deepest wishes. And our heart's deepest wishes will be fulfilled. When we trust divine timing, of course. In the present moment, we're experiencing, learning that our biggest dream is experiencing the magic of life. Deep down inside, we are wishing to experience the beauty and magic of life. Princess of Summer is the future card, so what we have to look forward to. Emotional experiences, new emotional experiences, new relationships, compassionate friends we can share our concerns with. This is the card that I feel like represents our true nature as human beings. The gentle, the sensitive, the kind. A little bit inexperienced when we start off. But ultimately, we have pure intentions. And we're shifting to understanding our emotions more. Card of Clarity. Or Summer. Being distracted and failing to see a magical opportunity. It's kind of where we're at right now as we're transitioning from the past to the present to the future. In order for our wishes to come true in the present moment, we have to no longer be distracted by the things that aren't worth our energy and worth our time. We may be taking something or someone for granted and feeling discontentment with life. But that stems from the way that we perceive things. If we shift our perspective and allow ourselves to feel hope, maybe, just maybe, our dreams will be fulfilled, and which will lead to new experiences, new healing emotional experiences, and better, compassionate, healthy connections. This card represents who we want to be and who we want in our lives. Very interesting. That I cannot read these cards without hope being the underlying influence in it all. But it's true. That's what I've experienced. And like honestly, when I think about how like these cards and everything showed up in my life, it's like that's my story. Like that's how I got here. Like, and here, just not here doing this, but here like I've relocated. I'm taking a leap of faith into my career. Maybe someday in the near future my cards will be published. And I trust myself. And the effects of the recent betrayal I experienced, that wasn't as severe as the one that shook me to my core, isn't sticking. Like, I'm not in that state of shock. I'm not in a state of dis-ease where I had to do EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, for years to heal the like chemical reaction to feeling like I don't know if I can trust people after that experience. Like now I see it. Once it clicked, once I understood what happened, like, oh, now these are the steps I take to heal. Now I'm not going to allow something like this to happen again. Now I know. And I have hope. and I'm able to forgive easier. And the thing is that when I mentioned the person who betrayed me and that the aunt I grew up with who, you know, caused the religious trauma I had, I forgave them a long time ago, but sometimes it's still like makes me sad to think about from an outside perspective. I know based on their behavior, they didn't forgive me for leaving and asserting boundaries. And for me, someone who's not capable of forgiving, who's not capable of unconditional love, does not get to tell me how I connect with God, how I connect with Source, how I connect with Creator. Because I'm living each day to walk in compassion, to walk in grace, to walk in hope, inspiration, knowledge, truth, life, forgiveness, and faith. So I know that working with the Fae showed me that. Through the cards, through tarot, but through the fairy tarot, because I don't have the same experience working with other tarots. I have other tarots. I have 2 angel tarots. I have an Akashic tarot. I have the traditional Rider-Waite tarot. It's not the same. Not the same as this. It's because it's a Fae, not because it's tarot. So that's kind of that. And like, I didn't have hope or believed that I was worthy of a happy life because of the way that the estranged family that I had made me feel. Working with the Fae and the angels and the elves and the healing energy and tarot and uncovering channelers and astrologers and everything and stepping into this path saved my life. Because I was on a path of self-destruction. I was. Because I was hurt. I would have probably been living the complete opposite life that I live now. I'm grateful. And the Fae teach us that gratitude is sometimes even stronger than love. Because love is in our nature, but gratitude is a choice. And because we are beings with free will and beings of life when we choose to be grateful, truly heartfeltly grateful, we are experiencing a higher resonance frequency. I'm grateful for the pain, the suffering, and the betrayal that brought me here. So, moving forward, I don't know what's next. By the time this video comes out, maybe I will. But this sense of new beginning and uncertainty, but excitement for the uncertainty, is something I haven't felt in like 5 years. And it's something that the Fae brought me. And that they're bringing back to me. Now that I'm sitting and I'm thinking about it. And it's clicking. Like, but this time the unknown isn't scaring me. It's like, okay, like, let's do it. Like, I'm ready for it. I'm not expecting it to be bad. I used to expect things to be bad. I didn't have hope. Now I do. From connecting with the beings of hope. So I hope you connect with them and you found something of interest in this video, since this is something that I've been asked about. So I wanted to talk about it, and I encourage you to open your mind and your awareness to new things. Because me doing that quite literally saved my life and my soul. And I don't care if I'm not living the way that someone's ego perceives that you're supposed to live. I'm happy. I wake up every morning and I say good morning to the house. I am sending love to the sea. Like, I never used to do that. I never used to say the words like good morning and mean it. And that didn't happen until I started this journey. So, It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to find hope. So, sending you love, light, inspiration. Because if I don't conclude this now, I will continue talking. Because I am a communicator at the end of the day. At the end of the day. Yeah, I'm a communicator for the Elfian realm, and they picked me because I have the capacity to talk. But thank you so much for listening and hearing my story and how I ended up working with the Fae and how I ended up where I am and everything. And I will see you in the next whatever channeling, inspired awakening. I don't know what I'm doing next after this, and that's exciting. But I guess by the time this video comes out, I will already know. But at the time of recording, I have no idea. So probably something coming up soon about like the mid-year of the year of abundance, kind of like check-in. Probably some like channeling related to that. So, sending you love, light, and inspiration. Stay inspired, stay hopeful, and I'll see you next time. Love and light.